stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now, huh?
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm Samantha Bentley, and this is the 1018th edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Today, we continue with Bill's motorcycle road trip in the summer of 2006. If you'll recall, on July 25th, he left Franklin Park, a Chicago suburb near O'Hare Airport, and proceeded south to Route 30 without using the interstate highway system. When he reached Route 30, he turned east and rode to Indiana. In Indiana, he stopped in Crown Point to eat, then took an unplanned spur-of-the-moment side trip to the old US 30 drag strip. From there, it was off to Fairmount, Indiana by way of Route 30, east to Plymouth, then Route 31 south to Kokomo, then turning east again to Fairmount. His visit to Fairmount was to drop by the hometown of 50s movie actor James Dean, famous in the motorsport community because of the '49 Mercury he drove in the movie Rebel Without a Cause. So powerful was his performance, the 1949 Mercury and its twins, the 50 and 51, have been forever renamed James Dean Mercurys.
After visiting the town of Fairmount and seeing some of the sights, Bill had to travel to a nearby town, Gas City, to find a motel. Hi, I'm Janine Lauschat. Bill was very much impressed and pleased to find almost no commercialization of Fairmount's favorite son, right up to the fact there were no motels for visiting tourists in Fairmount itself.
The lack of commercialization raised Bill's interest in Fairmount. Clearly there was civic pride, but no commercialization. Hi, I'm Patty Borowitz. Before Bill left in search of destination number 2 of this trip, he wanted to stop by Fairmount one more time to see if he could better understand the James Dean mystique, particularly after studying the pictures he took at the gravesite the night before and noticed fresh lipstick prints on the headstone. This kind of adulation for a man gone for more than 50 years, yet no commercialization, it interested Bill, and he thought if he checked out one more James Dean site in the light of day, he would better understand.
In addition to that, it was a beautiful day for a ride in a very scenic area. The 8 or 10 mile return trip to Fairmount wouldn't really be much out of the way because Gas City was north of Fairmount and his next destination was south. Let's join him en route to revisit Fairmount, Indiana.
By the way, yes, this is an interstate, but I didn't have any choice. I had to take it for 4 or 5 miles in order to get to these hotels because there weren't any motels in Fairmount for some strange reason. Fairmount, 8 miles.
Yes, Bill is on an interstate. Sometimes there is no choice, and he's glad they're there. Let's rejoin him some 7 or 8 miles up the road looking for the Fairmount exit.
closer he got to Fairmount, the prettier the ride became. Let's enjoy a little of the scenery.
I would like to take a moment on this, the start of part 3 of our motorcycle road trip 2006, to remind you a motorcycle road trip is as much about the ride as it is about the destination, probably more. We're including a great deal of riding footage in this series within Motorsports Unlimited, subtitled The Ohio Trip. That's right, the Ohio trip. I know, we're not in Ohio. Bear with us, you'll see how it all works out. In any event, the point I'm trying to make now is I would like you to use your imagination while watching this effort to help you experience a motorcycle road trip. The joy of riding involves exciting all 5 of your senses. Feel, smell, sight, sounds, even taste. Yet we're trying to do it through a TV screen. You'll really need to help us in order to enjoy this. As you watch the countryside roll by, put your imagination to work. Try to feel, smell, and taste it as well as see and hear. You'll enjoy it much more.
In a few minutes, he found himself approaching Fairmount and wanted to stop and take a picture.
Well, I don't know if the audience can see it, but there's a sign that says Fairmount, home of James Byron Dean, even though his real name is Byron. Fairmount Historical Museum, James Dean exhibit.
I'm sure you can imagine Bill's chagrin when he read the sign and realized it was Fairmount, not Fairmont, as he had been saying. Anyway, after the picture, it was time to find what Bill thought was the final and most important piece of the James Dean puzzle.
I've been looking for James Dean's boyhood home, although I must tell you that part of the story is not really important to me. I don't know why. I'm not really a celebrity person, looking for celebrities or anything like that. I'm having trouble finding it. The directions the guys at the gift shop gave me were excellent, so it could be there's no sign. I sort of expected there to be a sign or something like that saying James Dean's home, but I understand a relative still lives there, so maybe maybe this might be bothered and all that. I don't know. But in any event, it's not there, and that's not really what, or at least I'm not going to spend any more time looking for it because I've got to get on to our next destination. But that wasn't the part that I came back here for anyway. Something struck me last night, and it was in the dark. And again, as I'm talking here, I'm still looking to see if a sign pops up coming from this side saying James Dean's home. The boyhood home is supposed to be right along here. By the way, very rural. A couple of things that have really struck me about this that I really like. Absolutely no commercialization. I mean, I am really impressed. This is, you know, James Dean was a significant Hollywood figure from a small little town in the middle of Indiana, and you would think there'd be little carts on every corner trying to get people's attention to buy things and all that, and yet I see none of that. The gift shop was there, but it was not exactly, I mean, it was commercial, but it was not exactly commercial. The guys there were more sweet, if that's a good word for a guy. They were more sweet. You could see they were dedicated to the James Dean thing and all that. And that's the only place I saw that where you could buy things having to do with James Dean. So, it's the lack of commercialization I really like, and you just kind of cruise through the countryside here, trying to find these things that are on the map. And I'm sure if I spend a little time and ask a couple questions, I'd find James Dean's boyhood home. But that's not, as I said, that's not the important thing to me. I found something very important last night that I just wanted to, at least it was important to me. And it, in effect, I sort of got the whole James Dean thing when I saw this. And here we are now. Here we are. This is where James Dean bought his first motorcycle.
An old Indian motorcycle shop, obviously restored but not operating. Let's see if we could understand why. To build this old motorcycle shop is so important in understanding James Dean.
I stopped here last night in the dark and tried to get a picture, but it was just too dark. I really couldn't get anything. And as I rode to Gas City, because that's where the motels were, the closest motels, as I understand it, I thought about it. Somehow, when I pulled in here, I sort of got the whole James Dean thing.
Now you have to remember, James Dean passed away in 1955. I would have been 12 years old in 1955, so I was a little young for the James Dean era. My sister, however, was 5 years older than me, and I remember her and her girlfriends all very gaga, if that's an acceptable word these days, all very gaga over James Dean, and they were all kind of heartbroken when James Dean passed away. I was a little bit too young to really fully appreciate it. Now that I come back here to his home, and certainly I understand the impact that he's had, I realize that what James Dean was a cool motorsport guy. This was the place where he bought his first motorcycle, and as I understand it, even though I wasn't able to locate it in a reasonable length of time, his boyhood home is right down the road here a little ways, and this is where he used to hang around at the motorcycle shop, and it's where he got his first motorcycle. All of those things I can relate to, and I'm sure that most of our audience can relate to. James Dean, a little bit early for my time. However, you look at the pictures here, you look at some of the memorabilia, and you realize the person that he really influenced, and there's no question about this in my mind, was Elvis Presley. James Dean was the first guy to come in with kind of the attitude and kind of the look, and Elvis Presley picked up on that, and of course, collectively, the two of them really influenced an entire generation of baby boomers that were on the way up. So very important figures. As I said, I didn't really get the whole thing until I stopped here last night, saw the motorcycle shop, and I know that most people out there watching right now will look at this place and say, that's not much of a motorcycle shop. This would have been early 50s. Now remember, this is an Indian. They stopped making, as I recall, Indians, I'm going to say the real Indians, the wrong way to say it. The original Indians stopped production in 1953. This would have been about 1950, 1951, so this would have been an Indian motorcycle dealer, and I assume his first motorcycle was an Indian then. Indian, by the way, after they went out of business, they've come back in several different ways. Royal Enfield out of England bought the Indian name, and I want to say in the late 50s, and produced a lot of Royal Enfields with the Indian name on it, and after that, a couple of other mini bike companies bought the name, and today there's another company that's bought the name that's really doing a great job putting out some really beautiful motorcycles under the Indian name. But the original Indian stopped in 1953. Now, James Dean certainly would have been a young man at that time, and this is where he hung out. This I can relate to. They talk about it down here, that James Dean was the man that invented cool. Well, in a way, he kind of was. He was the first guy with the look. My generation maybe would have said Elvis Presley, but boy, you can really see the similarity in their presentation and their the way they carried themselves and all that, and it sort of set a standard for a generation. Anyway, interesting how some things touch you. This place touched me, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go back in the daylight and just talk about that a little bit. I get it now. I get the James Dean thing. Pretty cool.
It's interesting how people relate to things differently. While James Dean was certainly way before my time, I'm aware he was a handsome young movie actor who died in the mid-50s. I think of him as a movie star. Bill, on the other hand, sees him as one of the guys. He said later he could imagine the shop in the early 50s with the big door open and guys hanging around, talking about and working on their bikes. He thinks most of our Motorsports Unlimited audience understands why he was moved. It was time to move on.
I'm glad I came. Gives me a new perspective. I guess because it was before my time, I didn't know that much about James Dean, but apparently very much like Elvis Presley, rural farm boy, made it big in show business. Of course, with him it was being an actor with 3 movies before he passed away, and of course Elvis Presley with a huge career of singing and movies too for that matter. Interesting, you can't help but wonder, how did that ever occur? I've shown you a lot of pictures here of how rural this area is. Beautiful rural, middle of Indiana, heartland of America kind of a look. And you wonder how someone from here ends up in Hollywood and becomes a cultural icon. And I guess the same could be said for Elvis Presley from Tupelo, Mississippi. Interesting. I don't know the story on either one of them. No, that's not true. Elvis, we knew that he went into Sam Phillips' studio and wanted to cut a record for his mother and all that, but I don't know the story of James Dean. I don't know how he got into Hollywood from this rural environment and hanging around that motorcycle shop. By the way, there's the cemetery that we passed through last night. Beautiful Middle America countryside. And now we're off to our next destination. And by the way, if I can remind you, at the beginning of this series, I said that the destination isn't all that's important. In fact, it's not even primarily important. As a matter of fact, I break it up into 3 categories. Getting there, the destination, and getting home. And in this case, because I have multiple destinations, the trip in between each one is important and significant, just as important as the destination. Although I didn't really expect this James Dean thing in Fairmount, Indiana to be significant. It was just something kind of on the way to where I wanted to go. I'm glad I came. I enjoyed it. I think it's worthwhile. And now, as soon as I get my bearings, it's off to the next destination.
That's right. Bill had to pull into a gas station to get directions. If you ask him about a GPS unit, he thinks they're terrific and are well worth having. But for a motorcycle adventure, he wants neither a GPS unit or a cell phone. He enjoys stopping at local places and chatting with the folks, and often learns things he couldn't find any other way. Anyway, he proceeded south on 9, even though everyone told him it would be faster to take Interstate 69 south. But you know Bill, he wanted to enjoy the countryside.
We're about halfway to our second destination. Don't know how many of you have guessed what it is by now. And if you haven't, that's okay too. I cannot tell you what a pleasure it is traveling through this Indiana countryside. We've had mile after mile after mile of farm, beautiful, beautiful farm country. The weather has been on and off. As you can see, the sun is just breaking through a little bit now, but it's been mostly overcast. Doesn't really make much difference one way or the other. It's hot when the sun comes out, and we get better pictures when it's overcast. On the other hand, it makes you feel better when it's sunny, so it doesn't make any difference. It works well either way. And once again, just check out this beautiful countryside. Doesn't get much prettier than this anywhere.
he was enjoying 9, he knew he was closing in on destination number 2 and would be forced onto Interstate 70 to find the way there. Where? Watch.
Well, this is destination number 2, our little motorcycle adventure here today. Now, you didn't think I was going to really drive right by this part of Indiana without stopping at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, did you? Granddaddy of all the tracks. Although I really shouldn't say that, because the Milwaukee Mile has been operating longer than Indianapolis. I've forgotten the number of years, but I think it's 2 or 3 years longer for the Milwaukee Mile, the oldest operating track in America. There we are, dead ahead, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, racing capital of the world. Oh, this is a terrible place to park motorcycles, a gravel parking lot. Oh, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
You can tell by now Bill is a little annoyed. After traveling through beautiful country hours earlier, he had to spend the last hour and a half in downtown Indianapolis during rush hour trying to find the racetrack. He says motorcycling in cities is a little like riding the interstates. They're all the same. Then he's directed to a gravel parking lot for motorcycles located a considerable distance from the main speedway building, and gravel at that. The trouble with the gravel parking lot for motorcycles is you can't use the side stand because it will sink into the gravel and the bike will fall over. The center stand is almost as risky for the same reason. Clearly a parking lot planned by a non-rider. Bill decided to make the best of it, tape a short piece, and move on to destination number 3.
Well, here we are, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's been an ordeal getting through Indianapolis. I've always come to the Speedway coming down from Chicago, and there's a certain set path that we always take, and we sort of slide right in here off the expressways. Not exactly easy when you come from the south side of the town through the back roads and all that. Anyhow, we're here. I just didn't want to pass by this neck of the woods, so to speak, without including a stop at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, we've got another destination. I kind of figured you'd guess this one, but I'll bet you're not going to guess the next one.
Boy, that was short and sweet. I can tell Bill wasn't pleased. He didn't like the hour-and-a-half ride through downtown Indianapolis in rush hour, only to find that motorcycles had to park in a gravel parking lot a half mile or more from the entrance to the main building. On the other hand, the guard was quite friendly and told him a slick way to get out of town and onto the interstate. By now, Bill was ready for the interstate.
Boy, this is really a weird parking lot for motorcycles. I don't know what they had in mind. If you can't park them lengthwise on these concrete things, or use up a lot of space very quick with a few bikes. And if you do it crossways, well, I don't know. You put the side stand down, and the front wheel would be lower than the concrete pad. It's probably going to tip over the opposite way. If you try to put the side stand into the gravel, it'll definitely fall out. I don't know. It must work. It doesn't look like it's brand new. It's very strange. I've been told to make a left turn here. This is 16th. I've been told to make a left turn, go down about 2 lights, don't go under an underpass, make a right turn at Hoyt and follow it all the way to Route 70, which is what I'm looking for. Well, there it is, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Really amazing the amount of land that it takes up. Okay, I hope this is what he meant. Just before it, turn right. Boy, I don't think so. I'm going to try it, but this doesn't look right. He says it'll wind around. I think it's okay. He says it'll wind around, take you right to 70. Hope nobody noticed my turn signal on all that time. I'm telling you, it's a terrible problem. Yeah, this is what he was talking about. Holt Road, that's what he said. And this should take me to Route 70 to go east to Ohio.
Interstate 70 and laid his ears back to get out of town. He jumped over to Route 40, which roughly parallels Interstate 70, but this is more to his liking. Let's rejoin him.
Oh, it is so nice to be back on the country roads. I have a feeling that motorcycles and me are for country roads. After hours of beautiful farm landscape through Indiana, then to get down to Indianapolis and have to spend an hour and a half working my way through downtown, trying to find the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then finding it and shooting the piece, and then having to take I-70 to get out of the Indianapolis area. I was probably on I-70 for about a half an hour, so between the hour and a half downtown and a half an hour, I was getting an attitude. This is not the way to enjoy motorcycling. This is the way to enjoy motorcycling. Look how pretty this is. By the way, to be fair to Chicago, Indianapolis, the roads in Indianapolis and around Indianapolis, the interstates and all that, they're just as bad as Chicago. It's like a motocross course. But this is such a pleasure. These roads are glass smooth. And by the way, this is 40, Highway 40, and I keep seeing signs that say this is some kind of a historic national road. I'm going to have to check it out, make a note to myself, checking that on the internet when I get home. In a way, it reminds me of Route 66 because it tends to be flat and straight as much as possible, and it looks like this may be one of the early parts of the highway system. The other roads that I was on this morning all had quite curves around the landscape, but this one, you can see they made a concerted effort to make it straight and flat. But this is the way to enjoy a motorcycle. Smooth roads, country roads. As I said before, I think motorcycles in me are made for country roads. I enjoyed this. Just about the time you get tired of running along 60 miles an hour or so, comes up one of these little towns, and there's always something interesting to see at these little towns. I went through a couple of them where, Knightsville, I'll have to check. Boy, what beautiful architecture you could see was from probably the old turn of the last century, something like that. Really beautiful. I wish I had time to stop and take pictures of every cool thing I see, but we would never get to where we're going. You do have to watch for these speed limit signs, though. They kind of pop up on you suddenly. You got to get in the brakes quick. Anyway, we're headed toward Ohio.
Bill says one of the nice things about touring on a motorcycle is even if a destination doesn't turn out as well as you hope, you've still got the ride. It's like a tonic, and in a while brings you back to an almost euphoric state. Speaking of state, in order for Bill to get to the Ohio state line, he had to jog over to Interstate 70 again. In a short while, he arrived at the Ohio state line. Remember, the title of this series within Motorsports Unlimited is the Ohio Trip. I think it's time we actually get to Ohio.
Well, folks, every once in a while these state lines sneak up on me. This one kind of caught me by surprise as I was coming over the hill and starting to make my left, and I say, oops, there's the state line. And by the way, some of these are pretty risky, so I hope you appreciate it. The semis are just whizzing by. I'm sure all you can do is hear them. You're not really seeing them. Anyway, I've reached Ohio now. It's about, our time, Chicago time, it's 4 o'clock, so it's 5 o'clock Ohio time. I guess Ohio would be the same as Indiana in this area. Well, we'll see. Anyhow, any guesses yet where we're going? I'll tell you this much. This all started about 33, 34 years ago when the first flat track motorcycle race of this season was traditionally in Springfield, Ohio. So the early April, every year, my friends and myself would make the trek to Springfield, Ohio for the first event of the year. Sometimes there were snowflakes in the air because this isn't really that far south, but they kind of thought it was. Sometimes there were snowflakes in the air, sometimes there was sleet in the air. And I spotted something as I went to Springfield every year that always interested me. Any ideas yet? Well, you'll see.
Something near Springfield, Ohio, huh? And from more than 30 years ago, long before I was even born. I wonder what it could be. Motorcycle related, no doubt. Let's see what he has in mind.
Well, if I'd waited just a few minutes, there's even a better sign. I didn't know that was coming. I was looking for something that said, welcome to Ohio, and that's beautiful. Well, then you see it twice, folks. We are now entering Ohio. As you know, I don't particularly enjoy the interstate. I think it ruins the trip. But there are certain portions of it where you have to go on it to get to where you're going. So right now, I'm going to have to take this into Dayton. And I'm hoping that I can spot what interested me 30, 35 years ago and show it to you if it's still here.
I'm not sure what he's looking for, but he mentioned Dayton, Ohio. I don't know if it's something in or around Dayton, but he's piqued my interest.
I'm still looking for what I'm looking for, which is a sign, folks. Forgive those little interruptions, but I think it's the only way you can hear me is if I don't put the throttle on, and I got to keep up with traffic here a little bit. I'm looking for a sign, and I suppose it's unrealistic for me to think the same sign would be here 35 years later, but somehow I think it will be. Dayton is 26 miles away. Boy, I'd like to see that sign.
Why on earth would Bill think some sign from over 30 years ago would still be there? As he got closer to Dayton, he turned the camera back on.
Well, this is getting discouraging. We're coming into the Dayton exits, and I still don't see the sign that I'm looking for. Because this is the way we always went to Springfield years ago. We were always running late, always using the interstates. There it is. That's what I'm looking for. Air Force Museum. Use exit 44A.
Air Air Force Museum? And here I thought it was going to be something motorcycle related. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. We do many sport aviation shows. Bill always says aviation is a very important part of motorsports, including the greatest motorsport event in history, the United States versus Soviet Union. Rockets to the moon and back. This should be interesting. Let's join him as he looks for the United States Air Force Museum.
I don't know if the audience can see it, but Ohio is very pretty in this area. Rolling hills. Even on the interstate, it looks pretty nice.
Bill keeps turning on the camera, thinking the proper exit is coming. Thus far, no luck.
Still no luck. He kept watching. His 30-plus-year-old memories are not serving him well.
Got to be just about there. Here it is, exit 44A. Boy, you'd think they'd have more signs. I believe we're going to find that this is a very special place, and I'm really surprised they don't have signs all along the highway. They used to have a very big artistic one. So there it is, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Wright State University. Now let's see if there's a sign up here. I'm really surprised they don't have more signs. I'll explain as soon as I get out of the way of everyone. The people behind me really hate it when I roll the throttle on so I can talk. Patterson Air Force Base, areas A and C, 3/4 mile. Museum, use exit 15. That's part of the right airfare. Must be a huge place.
The size of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was overwhelming. Bill kept careful watch for signs.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Area B. That must be it. Air Force Museum, exit 15. Not really sure where to go. It says right past Air Force Base, Area B, traffic only. I guess I'm Area B. Which way to the airplanes in the museum? Which way to the airplanes in the museum?
Hey, what's that on the top?
I'm taping a television show.
It does what?
I'm taping a television show.
Oh, okay. It's not on now, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, make a U-turn, go to Colonel Glenn Highway, make a right, go 2 miles and make another right. You'll be on Whitman and...
Back this way?
Yes, sir. Colonel Glenn Highway, right here.
Okay, then make a right?
Go to the light, make a right, go 2 miles. Exactly, 2 traffic lights.
Okay.
You make a right turn.
Make a right turn after 2 traffic lights?
Yes, sir. You'll see the Wendy's, McDonald's, Precision Auto.
Okay.
You make a right there. That's going to put you at Harshman and Airway.
All right.
And then you're going to follow the signs on around
There's signs?
Street. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Make a U-turn. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right behind the building there.
Tell these guys not to shoot me. I think this is where he means. Where I'm taking you is a place that 5 straight years we went to the Springfield opening race of the season, and I always saw the sign about this military aircraft museum, and it always interested me. They had pictures of airplanes on it. I said, boy, I'd like to stop one of these days. If we could ever leave early and get here early, well, we never could. Usually I was late, but if it wasn't me, somebody else was. For whatever reason, we had to continue right on going to the racetrack, and we never had a chance to stop at the Military Aircraft Museum. And I always said, one of these days, I'm going to get back there. Well, 33 years, I guess 33 years later, I'm getting back there. All right, this is the second light. If I remember correctly, he said make a right, and I'll bet there should be a sign here that will tell me that. Yes. See, the signs have gotten very official looking and all that. That's a shame. They used to have kind of artistic ones with airplanes on them, cool military fighter planes and all that. But I checked on the internet, and boy, they got some cool stuff here. Air Force Museum, next right. I should get off here. I'll give you a clear indication. I'm seeing these little signs. Let's see what these say. U.S. Air Force Museum to the right. Yes. I think that's a starfighter out there sitting on the end of the pole. Very cool. Bill, pay attention here. Gotta get over here and go to the right. It would not be the first time my enthusiasm for motorsport got away from me and I crashed. It's not funny, I know it. But it's true. National Museum of the United States Air Force, National Aviation Hall of Fame. Must be 9 to 5. That's like me to be late. Well, let's see what they've got here. They'll probably run me off in a second. That's okay. I intended to stay the day tomorrow and do some taping. I've been concerned about the weather on this trip. It's been hot, and sometimes I see the signs on the banks at over 90 degrees, and always over 86, 87, sometimes over 90 degrees. And yet the clouds have gone in and out. I kept thinking it was going to rain the whole time. I was told, boy, I can see it, that they've got plenty of stuff under roof here. They've got huge hangars, and I can see it. So even if it rains, we're going to be all right. But of course, I have to come back when they're open. National Museum, United States Air Force Base. And they even have a place for motorcycle parking. Isn't that nice? Now let's hope it's not a gravel thing where you can't put your side stand down. Not at all. Very cool. Well, we're here.
Boy, what a trip! We'd love to show you around a little this week, but we're out of time, with only enough left to acknowledge the fine work of our award-winning production team, including Chuck Itzenthaler, Sue Casanda, our webmaster, Frank Barbalace, Rena Borwitz, and Tom McGrady. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Pauley and Jerry Herbert. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Patty Borwitz, Janine Lauschat, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm Samantha Bentley, looking forward to next week's edition of the Ohio Trip. Bill says the Air Force Museum turned out to be a national treasure. I can hardly wait. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Grand Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from the Chicagoland Toys for Tots Motorcycle Parade held on Western Avenue in Chicago, the first Sunday in December.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue at 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in the County Farm Plaza at County Farm Road and Army Trail Road in Carroll Stream, Illinois. This program made possible in part by support from PB Food Products, located on 47th Street at Western Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you think.
Next week on Motorsports Unlimited, we take you inside this fabulous place called the National United States Air Force Museum, and boy, are you in for a treat. If we'd known what this place was 30 years ago when we were racing, we would have made sure we had time to stop. Well, it's never too late. Join us next week on Motorsports Unlimited and see what we're talking about before we have to move on to destination number 4.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wildt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So be seeing ya. Bye-bye. And keep on rocking.